Well, here we are, folks. The last day of Willis week. I know you're sad. I tears. There are tears here somewhere. I don't know if it's from crying from binge watching all these films or the fact that it's coming to the end. But we are here with the last film of Bruce Willis that he shot in 2021. And yeah, it's called American Siege. Once again, Edward Drake, who wrote and directed this script, his name's familiar. He did Cosmic Sin as well as Apex. Well, here we have Bruce Willis as Ben Watts, who's a horrible sheriff. He's a drunk of this small Georgia town. He does have a very good reputation at all. Pretty much a useless guy who is kind of in the pocket of a bad guy who actually runs the town. Well, when three individuals end up taking a person hostage because they want answers to what happened to one of those individuals' sisters 10 years ago, we see how all hell breaks loose in this small community as Ben Watts tries to make up for his demons in his past, and these three try to get answers and discovering a hell of a lot more than they bargained for. Again, another interesting film. I liked this one more than the last couple that I've reviewed. Interesting story in here with the whole 10 years ago small town and these folks taking a hostage to try to get the answers. I liked that angle, and the big, the corrupted guy who actually runs the town. That was kind of fun too. There's some interesting action sequences and dialogue, and the story, the way it plays out, is well paced. There were reveals in here that you could kind of predict how it was going to play out, but I will say there were a couple surprises in here in the script, but for the most part it's fairly predictable if you've seen these type of movies before. Bruce Willis shot, hold on to your butts, shot all his scenes in one day, and again, you can so tell with all of these films which ones he only had like a day to shoot, because they're the ones where he seems the most tired. Though it was more fitting for his character here because he's supposed to be a drunk cop who's trying to make amends. Now, you do have in here Rob Go showing up as Roy, Johan Erb as Toby Baker, and Anna Hindman as Grace Baker, the three individuals taking the hostage. I enjoyed the dynamic between these three quite a bit. I found them interesting characters, sympathetic to a point, even though they do some bad things. And yeah, the way they were performed, and solid performances by these three, and they felt like three friends just looking for some answers and taking the most extreme actions possible to get those answers. Anna Hindman especially gets a chance to be pretty badass in this film, which was an interesting surprise. Trevor Gretzky shows up in here as Kyle Rutledge. He's the partner of Ben Watts, who, yes, a cop again. Bruce Willis is a cop. What the hell? I think he's a cop out of like 5 out of these 7 films. Anyway, Trevor Gretzky shows up in here as Kyle. I liked his character, being the son of this guy who controls the town. He's a bit naive, yet a good counter to the Ben Watts character, who's the grizzly old veteran who is crawled into a bottle. We got Janet Jones showing up as Marissa Lewis. Enjoyed her character. She gets to have some interesting, fun scenes. And Cullen G. Chambers as the hostage in here. John Keats. Loved his performances. His performances out of nearly everybody else in here. Really was elevated and just making the most of all the camera time that he does get. Timothy V. Murphy, too, playing Charles Rutledge, the guy who runs the town. He played a pretty scary character, too. Pretty by the numbers, though. We've seen this type of character before. I would say out of all the performances out of this movie, it really was Cullen G. Chambers just putting his all in. And it definitely elevated some of those scenes where it could have really been lacking. There's a couple surprises they make with the characters. And yeah, American Siege, is one that, you may want to wait for a little bit cheaper rental. But the story does play out interesting. Again, you kind of have to put your suspension and disbelief in your back pocket. But Bruce Willis does get a little bit more action in here, which was also nice to see. So there you have it, folks. Willis Week. The top film out of all of these that would I recommend is probably Fortress. Again, more so for the villain than Bruce Willis. And also the Midnight in the Switchgrass, even though it was a mixed bag. And yeah, the rest of them all kind of play out the way we've reviewed them. Though I would say Deadlock and Out of Death really are two you can skip, unfortunately. So there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed these reviews. This was a fun, yet a little bit taxing at times challenge, but I wanted to challenge myself, and I thought it was just interesting to see an actor like Bruce Willis do so many films. But now that I found out that like at least 3 of these films he did in one day, that makes a whole lot of sense of how he was able to do so many films in 2021. So if you think of any more, or you like this type of series, please let me know. Love to hear your thoughts. Please check out our Patreon, hit the subscribe, bells and whistles and all that. Got a lot of great stuff coming up. I thank you as always for your support. And until next time, remember, yippee-ki-yay, keep that ticket stub.